crow on the wall, snow in my hair, steel at my throat, smoke in the air. Names like curses carved in the stone, born as a pawn, dreaming of thrones. Oh, hail the ones who burn for a crown. Oh, hail the wolves that won't bow down. Raise up the ruined, the broken, the bones. War writes the song of the DireWold.
Hvad er så, folkens? Welcome back to another video. We are going to continue our journey with the world of A Song of Ice and Fire. So, let's get to it.
Explain to me why it is more noble to kill 10,000 men in battle than a dozen at dinner.
Because it is stupid, okay? It is really, really stupid. Alright? Like, if you violate the guest right, like, you're going to, like, have daggers around you all the time, right? Like, some systems like that is there for a reason. It is there to make sure that negotiations and civilized talk is possible, which Tywin just destroyed.
Through the Red Wedding, the Lannisters gained a number of valuable prisoners, which helped relieve hostilities around Westeros, with most river lords swearing fealty to King Joffrey. With Edmure Tully captive, Sir Jaime Lannister was able to negotiate a peaceful resolution to the siege of Riverrun. Meanwhile, Blackwater Frey threatened to hang Patrick Mallister outside his father's castle, which resulted in Lord Jason's surrender at the siege of Seaguard. Moreover, Great John Umber and Sir Mark Piper were held as hostages to ensure their house's loyalty to the Boltons, the new overlords in the north. However, despite having ostensibly triumphed over all their enemies, trouble and tragedy was in the forecast for the House of Lannister, as the eldest of Cersei's children was soon to meet his end, triggering a set of events which would ultimately undermine their dominance over the Seven Kingdoms. While Robert Baratheon ruled in the Seven Kingdoms, content in the defeat of his great rival, Rhaegar Targaryen, and the death of the Mad King Aerys, the Targaryen line had not been entirely snuffed out. The youngest scions of the house, a brother and a sister, still drew breath. At present, their continued existence in Essos posed no immediate threat to the usurper, but time would prove to be a great equalizer in this tale. Princess Daenerys...
Are we going to get the Targaryens' side of the story now?
Targaryen, also referred to as Daenerys Stormborn due to the circumstances of her birth, was the youngest child of King Aerys II Targaryen and his sister wife, Queen Rhaella Targaryen. She was initially conceived during the last month of Robert's rebellion, which, as we have already detailed, was not a great time to be a Targaryen. Shortly after this conception, Rhaella was sent to Dragonstone, the ancestral home of House Targaryen, with the unborn Daenerys' older brother, the young Prince Viserys, in order to avoid the rebel army headed by Ned Stark following their victory at the Battle of the Trident.
I mean, I know about Daenerys Targaryen. Like, she's probably one of the most popular names during the Game of Thrones era. Never really heard about her brother.
Daenerys was born in inauspicious circumstances, as a great storm raging about Dragonstone destroyed what remained of the Targaryen fleet, while her mother would not survive the birth of her daughter. The Targaryen family had been decimated in the war, with Aerys, Rhaegar, and his children, Rhaenys and Aegon, murdered by the Mountain, leaving young Viserys and Daenerys as the last of the dragons. Viserys was therefore named king on the island of Dragonstone, while Daenerys, as his heir, was named Princess of Dragonstone. Their time on Dragonstone was to be fleeting, as Stannis Baratheon was building a mighty fleet to take the island. Fortunately for the House of the Dragon, one Sir Willem Darry, the former Master-at-Arms of the Red Keep, smuggled the children to the free city of Braavos, where they lived under Darry's protection until his death.
Okay.
In 297 AC, the Targaryens were taken in by Magister Illyrio Mopatis of the Free City of Pentos, who sheltered them for half a year and offered to help in reclaiming the Iron Throne. In order to do so, he brokered a marriage to the Dothraki Khal Drogo, who would marry Daenerys in return for providing her brother Viserys with the army required to reclaim
I know about
the
the Dothrakis too. Not much. I know they're horse lords who are like extremely skilled warriors.
kingdom he deemed to be his by right. The two were wed outside the walls of Pentos, with the most important gift of the day being 3 petrified dragon eggs provided by Magister Illyrio, and the sworn service of the exiled and disgraced knight Ser Jorah Mormont to Viserys. Although she had initially dreaded marrying such a violent and barbaric man as Khal Drogo, during the Khalasar's journey to Vaes Dothrak, the only true city of the Dothraki, a loving relationship ensued between the unlikely pairing.
Really?
Moreover, Daenerys also became aware of her brother's weakness and ineptitude as a ruler, finally shedding the fear she had so long held for him. On her 14th name day, Daenerys revealed to all that she was now pregnant, and they finally arrived in Vaes Dothrak not long after.
I did not know that Daenerys had kids. I know she has dragons, or seems like she will get dragons.
Daenerys' marriage, pregnancy, and overall upturn in fortunes did not go unnoticed, and the revelations were to have massive implications back in King's Landing. When King Robert learned of Daenerys' marriage through his Master of Whispers, Lord Varys, it caused friction between the king and his hand Eddard Stark, and the further revelation that she was now pregnant led Robert to command that a price be put on Daenerys and Viserys' head. At Vaes Dothrak, Daenerys was presented to the elders of the Dothraki, the Dosh Khaleen, and took part in a ceremony for her unborn child, eating a raw stallion heart in the process. Following this, the Dosh Khaleen named Daenerys' child the Stallion Who Mounts the World. Meanwhile, Viserys would cause a fair share of difficulties on that same evening, as he first attempted to steal Daenerys' eggs, only to be foiled by Ser Jorah, before arriving at the ceremony with his blade in hand, which was forbidden. He then drunkenly...
Dude, what are you doing? Why? Like, are you going to pick a fight with the Dothraki? You have no backup.
threatened Daenerys and her child, which led to Khal Drogo melting the gold medallions on his belt before giving him the crown he had asked for. So it was that the eldest of the Targaryens died screaming, far from the kingdom he had striven to reclaim his whole life.
Oh no.
The brutal death suffered by her brother left Daenerys the...
Did they Crassus him? Those who don't know, Marcus Crassus, I think, was it... They so because of like Crassus is known to like be greedy, the Parthians, when he failed to invade Parthia, Crassus had like, was it on his head or down his throat, they emptied like melted gold on him to kill him. Pretty wild.
Supposed last surviving Targaryen, and as such, she felt the need to take up the deceased Viserys' cause of reclaiming the Seven Kingdoms. However, her husband, Khal Drogo, was uninterested in such a plan, until assassins attempting to claim King Robert's reward were barely foiled by Ser Jorah. This ignited the fury of the great Khal, who made a solemn vow to reconquer the Seven Kingdoms for their unborn son. This vow caused him to lead their Khalasar south in order to enslave as many people as possible, with the plan to exchange them for ships in Slavers Bay. During this incursion, they ran headfirst into a Lazarene town, which was being assaulted by another Khalasar, led by Khal Drogo. The two Khalasars proceeded to engage in battle, with Khal Drogo coming out on top and gaining some 10,000 captives, who Daenerys put under her direct protection to prevent their rape, causing furor among the Dothraki. During the battle, Drogo was injured and was unable to be seen immediately by the healers, leading to Daenerys turning to the aid of a Lazarene god's wife called Mirri Maz Duur. However, the poultice Mirri provided itched and burned Khal Drogo, who tore it off, replacing it with a plaster formed primarily of mud. This did little to stem the pain, and the wound began to fester, causing the mighty Khal to become weaker and weaker until he eventually fell off his horse. Daenerys sensed the danger in this, as a Khal who cannot ride a horse cannot lead a khalasar and would not remain a Khal for long.
True.
Acting quickly, Daenerys ordered that camp be made before asking for Mirri Maz Duur to be brought to her. Rumors of the Khal's fall had already begun to spread, however, and by the time Jorah came to their tent and examined the wound underneath the mud plaster, he concluded that Khal Drogo was good as dead already. Despite urging her to leave, for fear of the power struggle that would ensue following Drogo's death, Daenerys instead sent the knight to put on his armor. When Mirri arrived, Daenerys asked her to save Drogo using blood magic. However, Mirri warned her that only death may pay for life, even though it would not be her life that acted as the counterweight in this bargain. As the ritual began, a battle erupted between Drogo's blood riders and Daenerys' personal guard, Cass, as the unborn Rhaego began to kick wildly, causing Daenerys to go into labor. The midwives would not attend her, however, due to the black magic ritual which was ongoing. This caused Jorah to carry her back into the tent in the hopes that Mirri could do something. Daenerys, too weak to protest, acquiesced and soon passed out. Daenerys came to some days later, following several horrific fever dreams, and was holding one of her dragon eggs. Her predicament was a brutal one. Her son Rhaego was stillborn and malformed, the price of blood magic, and Drogo, although alive, was now in a catatonic state. When Daenerys demanded to know when he would return to his prior wakeful state, Mirri responded, "When the sun rises in the west and sets in the east, when the seas go dry and mountains blow in the wind like leaves, when your womb quickens again and you bear a living child, then he will return, and not before." Mirri had purposefully brought about this waking nightmare for Daenerys in retribution for the burning of her temple and the slaughter of her people. Due to this, the Lazarene god's wife was arrested under Daenerys' orders, and realizing that Drogo was now past the point of no return, Daenerys euthanized the man. She further declared herself to be queen, freed her slaves, and created a khalasar of sorts. Furthermore, Jorah was named as a knight of her Queen's Guard. The Queen then ordered a pyre to be built for the deceased Drogo, and placed upon it her 3 dragon eggs. Mirri was bound to it, with Daenerys informing the witch that only death can pay for life. The pyre was set alight just as the first star, which happened to be a red comet, was seen in the sky, and once the fire was at its greatest extent and ferocity, Daenerys walked into the flames. The next morning, as the flame had died out and the ground had cooled, the makeshift khalasar found their queen naked yet alive among the ashes. Her being unharmed would cause enough consternation for the everyday Dothraki.
And dragons.
However, it was the 3 newly hatched dragons which brought the greatest shock to her people. These dragons, the first to live since the year 153 AC, caused all gathered to drop to their knees and swear oaths to Daenerys, oaths which would make them more loyal to her than they ever were to Drogo.
Yeah, like they literally are serving a dragon queen now. A bold one, but a dragon queen.
3 dragons were named Viserion, after Daenerys' brother Viserys, Rhaegal, after her brother Rhaegar, and Drogon, after her deceased husband.
Drogo.
Unable to remain where they were, with several powerful khalasars nearby, decisive action was required. Daenerys elected to follow the Red Comet, which she saw as a herald of her coming, causing her to take her people through the Red Waste. They soon came to an abandoned city that the Queen named Vice Taloro. There, the khalasar began to recover from the terrible journey, while her blood riders were sent out to look for a way forward. 2 of the 3 returned empty-handed. However, Drogo returned accompanied by 3 citizens of the city of Qarth. the merchant Zarozoan Daxos, the warlock Priat Pri, and the Shadowbringer Quaitjay of Ashai. They escorted Daenerys and her people to Karth, with Zaro inviting them to stay in his palace. It is at this point that she learned of the death of King Robert and the ensuing conflict over his succession.
Oh, okay, so that's where we are at now. Yo, this has been a pretty quick travel then, if she might just have first found out now that, like, Robert might actually have been dead for a while, right? Like, it will still take a lot of time to, like, get the news to Daenerys.
Daenerys was not idle during her time in Karth.
Daenerys Stormborn, Daenerys the Bald.
Attempting to find backers in her reconquest of the Seven Kingdoms. This proved to be less than successful, and before long she was left with only one faction to turn to, the Warlocks. Daenerys went to the House of the Undying, where Pyat Pri gave her shade of the evening, and she entered the building alone.
Ooh.
She soon experienced several strange visions, and when she finally reached the Hall of the Undying, a prophecy was spoken, apparently dictating her future. We know the shape of shadows, morrows not yet made. Drink from the cup of ice, drink from the cup of fire, mother of dragons, child of three. 3 heads has the dragon, 3 fires must you light, 1 for life and 1 for death and 1 to love. 3 mounts must you ride, 1 to bed and 1 to dread and 1 to love. 3 treasons will you know, once for blood and once for gold and once for love. Daughter of death, slayer of lies, bride of fire.
So all of them has 3. So it's also pretty symbolic that she has 3 dragons, and the Targaryen symbol was 3 dragons, right? And Aegon conquered with 3 dragons. They're massive dragons he conquered with, right? Like Vega, Balerion, and what was the last one? Was it Meleys? No, not Meleys. That's in House Dragon. Meraxes.
More visions followed as the Undying attacked her. Fortunately, Drogon set them all alight, allowing her to flee.
Yo!
As she ran, Daenerys was...
So they're just being burned alive by that little dragon that's no bigger than like an eagle.
attacked by Pyat Pri. However, a combination of her blood riders Drogo and Rakaro and Drogon saved her from the infuriated warlock. This destructive act, which resulted in the destruction of the Carthy palace, turned the Carthene against the Targaryen queen, as Pyat Pri was now gathering the remaining warlocks to confront her. After she rejected a marriage proposal from Zaro, he offered her ships in exchange for one of her dragons. Daenerys rejected this too, and led her people out of the palace. She visited the docks in the hopes of finding passage for her and her people. Jorah warned her that they were now being followed by two strangers. Focused on the strangers, Daenerys was caught unaware when another individual, which happened to be a sorrowful man, one of the foremost assassins in the world, handed her a box, from which emerged an extremely deadly manticore. One of the strangers, acting with immense haste, knocked aside the manticore before it could sting her, which saved the queen's life. The two strangers were Belwes, a massive eunuch and former pit fighter, and his supposed squire, Arstan Whitebeard, who revealed that they had been sent to Karth by Magister Illyrio.
Pit fighter.
They had with them 3 ships, meant to escort Daenerys and her people back to Pentos, on the orders of her former benefactor. Daenerys then renamed the ships provided to her as Vagar, Meraxes, and Balerion, after the dragons of Aegon I.
Damn, look at all those scars. Damn.
Targaryen and
Is
his
that the scars or stretch marks?
sister wives Rhaenys and Visenya, as they began the voyage towards Pentos. During the journey, Ser Jorah convinced Daenerys to change course to Astapor, due to his distrust of the Magister. This city within Slaver's Bay produced the finest eunuch spearmen in the world, the Unsullied, who were known to have defeated even the Dothraki in open battle. And he further believed that having a loyal army behind her would increase her bargaining power with
How
Illyria.
many do they have?
At this point, the exiled knight also expressed his deep-seated love for her and offered to be one of the 3 heads of the dragon as her husband. When they arrived in Astapor, Daenerys began to treat with the good masters, with the arrogant Krasinnis Mon Naklos, using a translator Missandei, insulting the Targaryen queen, as he believed she could not understand High Valyrian.
Whew.
In spite of the
Yo,
protests
her
of
hair is growing back quickly.
and Whitebeard against the usage of slave soldiers, Daenerys informed the good masters that she would exchange all of her ships, goods, and Drogon in return for all of the 8,600 Unsullied and the 5,000 boys in training. The slavers agreed.
I mean, 8,000 is great, but like, there's no shot you're taking the 7 kingdoms with 8,000 men.
To this transaction and presented Missandei as a gift, who Daenerys promptly freed. The following day, Daenerys assumed control of her soldiers and betrayed the good masters when she ordered Drogon to attack the slavers and her Unsullied to conquer the city.
Oh.
She then freed all of the slaves there and set up a council to rule the free city. She further freed all of her Unsullied that she possessed, who then elected to continue in her service.
Damn.
At the head of her new, extremely effective army, Daenerys set her sights on the city of Yunkai. The slavers there, aware of the sack of Astapor, hired 2 sellsword companies,
A lot of slavers.
the Storm Crows and Second Sons, to supplement their slave army of 4,000. Daenerys met with the delayed envoy from Yunkai and the leaders of the mercenary companies, offering to pay them more than the Yunkish in order to get them to switch sides. The envoy from Yunkai, Grasdan Moeres, arrived last and offered Daenerys gold to turn back. She refused and ordered that all of their slaves be freed within 3 days or she would sack the city. Once the Yunkish envoy had left, Daenerys revealed her intention to attack the city that same night. The Stormcrow's leaders continued to argue about her offer, while the Second Sons became drunk on the wine she had given them. Just before the battle was to begin, however, Daario Naharis walked into the Targaryen camp and presented the queen with the heads of his fellow captains, Prendal Nagezen and Salor, before pledging the Stormcrows to her cause.
Damn.
As the army attacked Yunkai, Daenerys remained in camp. Though Mero, captain of the Second Sons, escaped, thousands of soldiers were taken captive, with Daenerys agreeing to spare any slave or sellsword who would swear their loyalty to her. Daenerys then made
Great
her way
offer.
to the gates of Yunkai, but waited until the morning of the 3rd day before she took any further action. That same morning, the gates of the mighty city were opened, and the slaves of Yunkai streamed forth, hailing Daenerys as Misa, which in the
Misa.
Giscari tongue meant mother. They
Wow.
welcomed her as a savior and liberator, the breaker of chains. With the defeat of the Yunkish forces outside the gate of their city, Daenerys had become ever more confident in the necessity of her continued crusade against slavery and oppression within Slavers Bay. This emboldened the young Targaryen to cast her eyes even further north, to the mighty city of Meereen. At this point, however, the residents of Slavers Bay had become wary of the potential that this upstart of old Valyrian blood
I really need to do like more a video on Essos at some point. Like, I never really heard about any of these places doing like the Valyrian. I hadn't really seen anything about Essos since Valyria, I think.
had to upend the existing balance of power that had emerged
And these places, I don't think they existed at that point.
following the doom of the Freehold. As a result, preparations were made far in advance of the Mother of Dragons' arrival outside their gates. The Meereenese withdrew all of their soldiers behind the immense walls of the city, and left the lands behind them bereft of any resource which could be of use to the oncoming Targaryen.
Yo, I was looking at the small screen here, so looking at like the fire and stuff. I did not see earlier that they are crucifying a baby right now. Damn. I hope she kills all of the masters in Meereen.
Army. Moreover, they added an element of terror into the equation. with the majority of Daenerys' host being composed of former slaves. 163 enslaved children were nailed onto the mileposts along the coast road. Thus, as the
163
Targaryen army made its way from Yunkai to Meereen, they were confronted with the very embodiment of the horrors Daenerys wished to bring to an end, mile by mile of their journey. Following this harrowing march, Daenerys decided to encamp her host just outside the walls of Meereen as an act of defiance, to show that despite their best efforts, the slavers would not break the spirits of the freed men and women of Yunkai and Astapor. By now, Daenerys' host numbered some 80,000 individuals, even if less than a quarter of them were active combatants.
Yo! 80,000. That's wild.
The Meereenese sent forth.
She's rivaling the armies of the Reeds right now. That's insane.
Forward their finest warrior, Osnak Zopal, the hero of Meereen, who challenged the Targaryens to single combat.
Oh.
Atop his white charger and holding a 14-foot lance, Osnak taunted the besieging enemy. At the same time, discussions commenced between Daenerys and her closest advisors regarding who should be sent to face him. Eventually, Daenerys decided upon her bodyguard, Strong Belwas. The reasoning behind this was twofold. As Belwas was an ex-slave, his death would not bring prestige to the hero of Meereen. Likewise,
Yo, that's a cool sword. It's like, it's bowing inwards. It's bowing a bit backwards here. And then it just has like this really like cut here and then out and then back again.
should the former
How effective would that be in a battle against a longsword though?
pit fighter defeat Osnak, it would bring shame to Meereen and strengthen Daenerys' reputation.
Like this sword would definitely suck against armor, right?
Thus, the duel was joined, and Osnak immediately charged at Belwas, who injured his horse, forcing Osnak to dismount and draw his sword. As was his tradition, Belwas allowed his opponent to wound him on his scarred stomach before beheading the horseman with his arak.
Yo!
The colossal eunuch then held aloft the decapitated head of the nobleman for all upon the great walls of Meereen to see, who began to loose stray arrows at him in spite of the fact they were out of range. In response, Belwas squatted in the direction of the city, defecated, then used the cloak of Osnak to wipe himself, killed his horse, and looted the body before returning to the Targaryen camp triumphant.
Oh my
While
god.
this represented a minor victory for the Targaryen cause,
wild.
the imposing walls of Meereen remained an issue. The newly appointed commander of the Second Sons, Ben Plum, suggested entering through the sewers, which Daenerys rejected out of hand. She then visited a camp of freedmen, where she was assaulted by the former head of the Second Sons, Merrow, who had hidden among her followers. Fortunately for Daenerys, Arstan intervened and slew the sellsword with ease.
Ooh.
However, the skill Arstan demonstrated caused Jorah to question his true identity, and Arstan revealed that he was in fact Sir Barristan Selmy. Jorah would then inform Daenerys that following on from the Battle of the Trident and the death of her brother Rhaegar at the hands of the usurper Robert Baratheon.
So Barristan has joined Daenerys now. Interesting.
Sir Barristan had betrayed House Targaryen. By bending the knee and joining the Kingsguard of Robert Baratheon, Barristan did not deserve to be trusted, a point Ser Jorah pushed to protect his position at Daenerys' side.
Oh.
Barristan initially countered this point by stating that he had shied away from revealing his identity for fear that word would make its way back to the Lannisters that he had joined her cause. Unfortunately, the angered queen did not accept this as sufficient cause. However, the former Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, having travelled so far to find a liege worthy of his service, would not be undermined by Ser Jorah, a man who, by all rights, should have been executed for his actions. Sir Barristan, therefore, revealed that Jorah had acted as an informant for the Iron Throne since Daenerys' wedding to Khal Drogo, and despite his protests, Jorah was forced to admit the truth of the aged knight's words. Infuriated by what she deemed a betrayal on both their parts, Daenerys ordered both Ser Jorah and Sir Barristan to lead the assault through the sewers, half-heartedly hoping they would perish in the attempt. During the main assault, composed
Damn.
of barrages of arrow fire upon the walls, while a ram broke down the city's gates. Jorah, Barristan, Belwas, and 19 others entered through the sewers. They subsequently defeated the guards, who were not defending the walls, and freed the slaves of the city, who promptly revolted, allowing the Targaryen forces to take the city. In retaliation for the vile acts conducted before Daenerys arrived in the city, the last of the Targaryens had 163 of the Great Masters rounded up. Each and every one of those assembled was subsequently nailed to posts on the plaza that stood outside the Great Pyramid of Meereen, which avenged the children crucified upon the coast road. The Queen's next course of action was to now deliberate upon the fates of the traitors within her midst. She could find it within herself to forgive and pardon the aged knight Ser Barristan. However, the same could not be said for Ser Jorah. Unable to overlook such a blatant breach of her trust, the former Lord of Bear Island was exiled again, with the ominous warning that should he return to Meereen, he would be executed. Fortunately, the void left in Daenerys' only genuine connection to Westeros was filled by Barristan, who spoke to her of her grandfather, King Jaehaerys II, while further elaborating upon the life of her forebear, Aerys. In doing so, he provided context to the unspoken truth that when each Targaryen is born, a coin is tossed by the gods as to whether the madness inherent in their family would overtake that particular scion of old Valyria. In doing so, he informed the Queen that initially Aerys had not been mad, but it had overtaken him as the years passed. Although Daenerys did not want to hear of this at that moment, she informed the old knight that she would like to hear more in the days to come, before naming Ser Barristan Lord Commander of the Queen's Guard. In this role, Barristan trained a number of the nobility in the ways of Western chivalry, as well as some 60 formerly enslaved people, with 30 persevering and the most promising among them being squired to him personally. Further ill tidings came to the court of the Mother of Dragons, as in Astapor, the ruling council that she had installed had been deposed, with each of the councillors executed. A former butcher named Cleon, who was once enslaved to Grazdan Mo Olhur, was now king of Astapor, and one of his first mandates was to have all of the city's former nobility enslaved. Further, Yunkai had begun raising new levies and sending out envoys, hoping to garner allies in the fight against the Breaker of Chains. Daenerys blamed herself for the failings of the cities she had once liberated, and decided upon a change of tact in her approach going forward. Therefore, Daenerys called all of her most loyal lieutenants to her side and informed them that she would remain in Meereen to learn to rule one city before embarking upon the far more ambitious plan of heading the entirety of the Seven Kingdoms. Word had begun trickling back to Westeros at this point, with Varys informing the small council of rumors of a three-headed dragon hatched in Qarth. This was not the end of the stories either, as among the acolytes of the Citadel, word spread of dragons in Ashai, Qarth, and Meereen, along with news of supposed slave revolts in Essos. Soon, the truth reached Dorne and King's Landing regarding the hatching of dragons and the slave revolts. Meanwhile, Euron Greyjoy claimed at the King's Moot of the Iron Islands that he would marry the Mother of Dragons, dispatching his brother Victarion and the Iron Fleet to Slavers Bay to bring his soon-to-be betrothed to him. Such tidings.
Yo, Jesus Christ. I don't know, man, dude. The Iron Islands, I think she has better offers in Westeros, though. Damn, Daenerys, she had like a really interesting. She probably had one of the most interesting journeys here. Damn. Hatching 3 dragons. I wonder how big they are going to get, right, before she attacks King's Landing. But yeah, like, the Lannisters are in, they're in quite a pickle, gotta say. Oof. Damn. Yeah. It was pretty interesting to see, like, those slaver cities, like, how easy it was for her to, like, take those cities, right? There was Meereen, Astapor, and Yunkai. Yeah. Imagine, like, somebody buying your slave soldiers, and then the first thing they do is they turn the soldiers against you. Oh, That's pretty funny. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty curious to see like how this is going to end with Daenerys, because like we don't have that much time left. Like an hour and 20 minutes. Oof. Wonder how far we're going to get with her journey. Yeah. Oof. The original video will be down in the description, guys. If you guys want to check out some more Song of Ice and Fire videos, I'll have a playlist up on screen. If you guys want to check out some Middle Earth lore videos, I'll have another playlist up on screen. Otherwise, please like, share, and subscribe. See you guys later. Bye.
Bare feet in the furrowed ground, dust on my tongue, heat bearing down. Sun like a hammer on my back, name I was born with, they took that. But my chains float soft like water, running through this tired soul. You can bind my hands together, you can't cage what the rivers know.